Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to today's Mahabharata reading and Bhagavad Gita Shloka recitation session. We'll begin now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapters 4, 5 and 6. Memorization, shloka recitation. Okay. Okay. Madhava, you want to go first? Yeah. 4-1.
Forward. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Saraswati Yogam Yotavam Priyam Vivaswananave Praha Manur Ikshvagave Bravit. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Ram Parampara Praptam Imam Radarsayo Sakale Neyamata Yoko Nasa Parantapa. This supreme science was thus received to the tune of disciplined succession, and the saintly kings understood in that way. But in the course of time, succession was broken, and therefore the science of the rich appears to be lost. 4.3 Saevayam maya tedya yoga prokta paradama bhakta sime sakha cheti rahasyam yetaruttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. 4.5 Sri Bhagavata Bahuni Vipatidani Sarvani Tavadardhana Tanyamam Veda Sarvani Natva Veda Parantapa. The personality of Godhead said, many words both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Verse 6. Bhagavati Sanavyayatna Uttanami Svarapisan Prakritim Swamadhisthaya Sambhavami Atmamayaya. Although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Verse 7. Hridayanavidhammasya Svanirбhavti bharatah Abhyaktanamatramasya Tadapannasuddhamiham. Whenever and wherever, with a divine and religious practice, all spiritual Mahabharata and a predominant rise in Hinduism, at that time I made him myself. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya sadushkatam dharma samsatanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. 4-9. Dhamma same divyam evam yogeti tatvadaha tyaktva devam punarjanma meti meti sarjana. One who does intentional nature of my appearance and activities does not abound the living body, takes but again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. Written. Raga Bhaya Krodha Mamaya Mamupasata Bhavo Jnana Tapasa Bhuta Madbhavamagata. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me.
This criteria by approaching a person concept, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto them. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge and deed, because they have seen the truth. 435. Yajyatvanabunarvoham evam yasisi pandava niram bhutani siksani having obtained ignorance from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will think that all living beings are but part of the creation, or in other words, that they are one. 156. Apite Rasiva even your personality was simple. When you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean. But ignorant and faithless persons, without the reading scriptures, do not attain God consciousness. For the doctrine of souls, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. That's rather given some it's some not to blame some say you are wrong. But this shows that Mahabharata. Therefore, the those who have burden in your heart, out of ignorance, to be glad by the knowledge, and with the of Bhagavad, silent by it.
5-2. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Sanyasayukam Yogashya Vishraya Sakaravabham Tayostu Karma Sanyasa Karma Yoga Vishishyate. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation, but of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. 5-6. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaktum ayunkataha yoga yukto mulir brahma rachirena vibhakshati. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. 5-7. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarvam bhutatma bhutatma kurvan api nadakyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. 5-10. Brahmanyadhyaya karmani sangam tyakva karotyaha likyate nasapatena padmapatram ivan vasa. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. 16. Jnanena tu tadagyanam yesham nasitam atmanah tesham adityam akashayati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nations is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. 5-18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Sapakecha Pandita Samadarshilana. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. 5-20. Na praharishyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, stiram buddhir asamurto, brahma ved brahmani stitaha. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. 5-22. Yehim samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonmaya evate adyam tavanta kamuteya ate shuramade bhutaha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. 5-24. Yonta sukham taranas tathantar jyotir evayaha sayogi brahma nirvana brahma puto divachati. Whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam Yatva Manushantim Vichyati, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries.
Would you like to try, Radhika?
I think I'll just recite with everyone, Mataji.
You can. You want to try or no?
No, it's okay.
Okay. After a couple of days.
6-1. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Anashita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karvati Yaha Sasanyasi Chayogi Cha Nanaragna Chakayaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. 6-5. Uddharedatmanatmanam natman avasadayet atmaiva atmana bandhar atmaiva puratma. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. 6-6. Bandharatmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jataha anatmanastu shatrutve vartet atmaiva shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. 6-7. Yatatmanam prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna sakadukeshu tatha manapamanayo. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. 6-8. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Ujastho Vajitendriyaha Yukta Ityajate Yogi Samalo Strashna Kanchanaha. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. 16. Natyashnatastu yogosti, nachaekantam anashnataha, nachati swapnashivasya, jagrato naiva charjana. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, or Arjuna, if one eats too much, or eats too little, sleeps too much, or does not sleep enough. 6-17. Yuktahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta sapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. 6-19. Yathadipo navadasto ningate sopamasmrita yogino yatachittasya nyunjato yogamatmanaha. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. 6:20-23. Wait, okay. 6:22-23. Yatra paramate cittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra sarvatmanatmanam pasyan atmani tushyati sakam atyantikam yatta buddhigrayam natindriyam vetti yatra nachayam sitastadi tatvataha. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadvikam tadaha Vidsrito nudkhena guranapi vitsalyate tam vidyadukha samyoga yogam yoga sangidam. The state of perfection, or trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely abstained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to realize and rejoice in the self. In that pure state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. Yes, indeed, is actual freedom from all misery arising from material contact. 624. Sarvasayana yoktavyo yogo nirvinna cetasa Sankalpa prabhavan kamans Taktva sarvan ashetasa Nasayendriya gramam Viniyamya samantataha. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires, born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind.
626. Yato yato nasyavati manasansalam astham. From wherever the mind wanders, to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly put the heart and get back under the control of self. 627. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me he is he realizes exploitative identity. The true yogi Yomam Namasyati Sarvatra Sarvam Janai Pasyati Tasya Pranasya Swatanasyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost in me. Santagamni Manokrasa Krishna Pranatmi Bhagavadgita for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very proud, focused, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the mind.
635. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabharata Manodevnegraham Salam Antyase Natu Kaunteya Vairagyena Chudrihyate. Lord Sri Krishna said, Almighty Armed Son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. 640. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaivyena Atmanatra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gachati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not lead to destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. 641. Prapya punya pritam lokan, ushitva shashwati samaha, shuchinam srimatam gehe, yoga bhashta vijayate. The successful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. 642. Tava yogi nam eva kule bhavati dhimata etalvi durabhataram loke janmaya drisham. Or, if unsuccessful, after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are naturally great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world.
643. Tatra tam buddhi samyogam labhate parvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuyaha samsiddha gurunandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Guru. 640. Jigyasur apiyogya shabda brahmadi vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. 645. Prayatnadyatmanastu yogi samshuddha kyognisha aneka dharma samsiddhas tatoyati paramgatam. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. 647. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmanam shraddhavam bhajate yomam samyaktatamo mataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Sorry, I was in mute. So thank you. Let's read Mahabharata now. So in yesterday's reading, we saw how the Pandavas have come to the city of Virata and they're nicely settled now. So Yudhishthir Maharaj became Kanka, the dice player and advisor of King Virata. Mm, Bhimsen became Vallabha, the cook, head cook. Draupadi became Sairandri, the hairdresser of Queen Sudeshna, King Virata's wife. And Arjun became Brihannala and he's living in the inner quarters, the ladies' quarters, teaching musical arts, dancing and singing to the ladies and also entertaining the king. And then there is Nakul. He was in the what do you call it? Stable, yeah, of the horses, taking care of the horses. And also he was made in charge of all the charioteers. And Sahadev was Tantripala, taking care of the cows. So in this way, 11 months had passed. They were supposed to stay for 12 months incognito. 11 months have passed. This is the last month. And once there was a wrestling competition in Virata, and great powerful wrestlers from all over the country and from other places, different kingdoms, they all were invited. And there was one particular wrestler who was very powerful, who defeated everyone, and he was just showing his power to the audience. His name was Jimuta. So then there was nobody, the other wrestlers being defeated by him, they didn't even dare to come and stand in front of him. Then the king called for Vallabha, the cook, Bhimsen. And although Bhimsen was reluctant to go because now he would be exposed, but he couldn't defy the order of the king, so he just came. And he was cautious not to exhibit his full power lest he should be discovered. So he fought. So there was some fight, and finally he decided enough is enough, and he just, in his typical way, just whirled him around the Jimuta and defeated him, and he just fell down. So everyone, all the people were cheering, seeing Vallabha, and the king was not. He was also very joyful. He was very pleased with Vallabha, but he wanted some more. So he called for tigers, lions, and elephants, and he had Vallabha wrestle with the wild animals. And Bhimsen very easily, killed all of them, defeated them. So that happened, and then also from time to time they would, so previous to this they were given so many gifts and wealth, like Yudhishthir Maharaj would play dice game with the king, and he would win all the time, so he would be given so many riches. So the others also, whatever wealth that they got by doing their services, they always shared amongst the brothers, so they were living pretty peacefully. And they remembered it was as if they were living with Kunti ji again, like sharing whatever they got, like that. And at the same time, they were keeping close watch on Draupadi so that nobody bothers her. So during the final year, the brother-in-law of King Virata, that means Queen Sudeshna's brother Kichaka, happened to see Draupadi in the palace, and he was he was very much attracted to Draupadi, and he wanted to enjoy her. So he asked Sudeshna, "Who is she? I never saw her before." And then he said, what is she doing here? She's so beautiful. She deserves to be, my queen, like that. Meanwhile, while he was talking to Sudeshna, Draupadi happened to enter the room, and shamelessly he approached her directly, in a lusty way, telling her that she should marry him and so on and so forth. And the Draupadi just walked away from there, being, disgusted. So then she was angry. Uh, so this Kitaka was not happy with this. So he told Sudeshna that I must get her, otherwise I'm going to kill myself. So then Sudeshna said, approached her so abruptly, I will send her to you, mm, to your place, and there you can peacefully talk to her, and she might agree. So he was happy. And a few days later, Sudeshna sent Draupadi to get some wine from Kichaka's room. She said, today is a festival and I'm very thirsty and I ran out of wine here. My brother has some very nice high quality wine. Go and get some wine. And immediately the Draupadi was alarmed because Sudeshna was also aware how Kichaka was behaving toward Draupadi. So if she went to his place, who would protect her? So Sudeshna just dismissed Draupadi's plea, and she said, "You are going on behalf, from the royal court. You are going on behalf of the queen. Nobody will dare to touch you or, behave with you improperly." So she didn't have a choice. She was, she just put the pot, the wine pot in the hand, empty pot in Draupadi's hand, and she said, "Go and get." So now Draupadi is very, very fearful and she's walking in great anxiety. And then she saw the sun god up in the sky and she prayed, "Please protect my honor." Uh, and then the sun god immediately
arranged for a Rakshasa who was invisible to accompany Draupadi at all times for her protection. So when she went to Kichaka's room, his house, uh, he was, of course, once again he approached her, and he actually, yeah, he actually, caught her arm, forced her, and then she felt like, she was, so she freed herself from him, pushed him down. He fell down. He was intoxicated, and then she ran. He pulled her upper garment. She just ran to the king's court, the courtroom where the king and all the courtiers were sitting. Yudhishthir Maharaj also, as Kanka, happened to be there. Vallabha, the kitchen cook, Bhimsen, also happened to be there at that time. And she came, and when she was running, Kichaka came running after her. And when she came and in front of the king, um, Kichaka forcibly kicked her, and she fell down. And she had, and everyone was just watching. Nobody said anything. And then Draupadi got up, and then she said, uh, first of all, she addressed Yudhishthir Maharaj, but in an indirect way. I am the wife of 5 Gandharva husbands who are so powerful, and um, they can, they're so powerful that even the demigods cannot stand in front of them. And also, they would never do anything against virtue. So, although they see their wife being mistreated like this, they're not doing anything, especially the eldest of them. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was feeling very, very, he was just controlling himself. He was just sitting there. And then Bhimsen, meanwhile, was very angry. And then, you could see it physically. It was visible on his face. He was sweating, and he was glaring at Kichaka, ready to pounce on him and kill him. And but Yudhishthir Maharaj just put his hand on Kanka's shoulder, and he said, "Oh Vallabha, I think you're needed in the kitchen. That means you should leave here right now." So just looking angrily at Kichaka, he just left that place. And then Draupadi now appealed to the king directly, and she said, "This is happening in front of you. You are the protector of Dharma. You're the king here. You are not doing anything. You're not saying anything." And then the king said, "I don't know what is your, problem with Kichaka, what happened exactly between the two of you, and what your, without going into the details, how I can punish anyone like that." So it was obvious that the reason that King Virata spoke like this is because Kichaka is a very powerful warrior, and King Virata was not as powerful. So it was Kichaka who was actually protecting Virata's kingdom. So he was very much dependent on Kichaka. So he didn't want to displease Kichaka. So therefore he didn't say. And laughing, Kichaka said, like nobody is going to do, right? So I forget what he did. Did he try to uh, drag her again? And that's when this this Rakshasa, invisible Rakshasa, just punched Kichaka, and he just fell down. He didn't see who did what, but he was like, he didn't know what happened. So then, uh, yeah, actually, what happened is when he kicked, yeah, why would he just stand and wait all this time while Draupadi is speaking? As soon as he kicked Draupadi and she fell down, that's when he got hit by this Rakshasa and he fell down, like on the floor, kind of, dazed. And that's when Draupadi was speaking. Then meanwhile, he got up after Draupadi spoke, and then he once again kind of laughing that nobody's going to help you, right? The king himself is not going to say anything. And all the other courtiers, they were silent. Nobody said anything. I wonder what happened. Did Kichaka leave, or was he just on the floor, fallen like that? When Yudhishthir Maharaj told Draupadi that she should Let me check. Hmm? Let's see. Yeah. So here, restrained by his elder brother, Bhima rose up. Okay, we saw that. And then Draupadi, seeing her husbands maintaining their disguises before the king, stood before Virata with flashing eyes. Okay, I want to see when that Rakshasa actually hit. Yeah, here. Yeah. So it happened before. Struck Kichaka blow with the force of the wind and he fell prostrate. That's all. That's all. So he just fell down prostrate. So apparently he's, he fainted or something. And then, Bhimsen left, and then Draupadi, she spoke, and she was crying. But also we saw that Kichaka was, let us see. As she spoke, Draupadi glanced toward Yudhishthir, who was squirming in pain. Turning her gaze on Virata, she went on, "What can I do? I am in this city, and he who defies virtue has coolly allowed me to be insulted before his eyes. Why does the king not act like a king toward Kichaka? O best of men, how do you tolerate this outrage? Let all the courtiers mark your failure today. Where is the virtue in either Kichaka or Virata, or even in the silent courtiers who have witnessed Kichaka's despicable behavior?" Okay. So the king looked at his brother-in-law who was smiling. So yeah, he said, "I don't know." The king said, "I do not know the full quarrel details, right? But how can I punish or pass judgment without knowing the facts?" And while saying this, he was looking at Kichaka. So Kichaka was up and he was smiling, just, I guess allowing Draupadi to talk. Then the aging Virata depended. Okay. Then the king could not say anything to offend, but the courtiers, acha. So now the courtiers started saying, that's what happened. Uh, the courtiers were now praising Draupadi and reproaching Kichak. That's what happened. All the other members in the hall who saw the whole scene, they were supporting Draupadi. This gentle lady, she's like a goddess in our midst. Surely the man who has her for a wife wants for nothing. So she's so good. And why is Kichaka insulting her? Right? He's done a great sinful act. So now Yudhishthir Maharaj taking the opportunity. Now Draupadi has support. So he said, you should just go back, right? And don't worry, your husbands will give you protection. Maybe they're thinking this is not the right time to act. So she also got a chance to just get away from there. So then Draupadi, she got up and she left weeping. She went and she took bath. Sudeshna saw her and she asked her. First, she went and Sudeshna saw her. She said, "What happened?" And then she said how she was, um, kicked by Kichak and how he touched her and all that. So Sudeshna said, "Do you want me to, I'm going to punish him. You want to see him killed? Do you want me to have him killed?" And Draupadi said, "Don't worry. His sinful acts will lead him to death. You don't have to do anything. My husbands are going to kill him. I can see that he's not going to live long," like that. So she took bath and she was feeling very impure, being touched by Kitaka, and she couldn't take it anymore. So that night she went to Bhimsen in the kitchen, right, in the night. So everyone was sleeping. After everyone fell asleep, she went and then she told him how, she started crying actually. Then Bhimsen said, "What happened? Is it because of what happened in the court hall today?" And she said, "Yes. How can I, I'm still grieving the way Dushasan has touched and all that. And now again, you have to kill him. You have to kill him. If you don't kill him tonight, then I'm going to kill myself." So Bhimsen gave an idea. He said, uh, of course, at first she said, how Yudhishthir Maharaj, how can any woman who's the wife of Yudhishthir Maharaj be happy like that? So Bhimsen pacified her and said, "Yeah, don't say anything against Yudhishthir Maharaj, he's Dharmaraj," like that. And then he said, I have a plan. Tomorrow, you talk very pleasingly to this Kichaka as if you agree to his proposal, and you arrange for him to come to this dancing hall. This dancing hall is way away from the other buildings, so it's far away, a little away. So call him in the night. So you say you'll meet him there, and then I'll take care of him. So the next day, uh, once again, Kichaka approached Draupadi, like you saw, nobody is going to help you like that. So then she also this time acted like she was interested in him, and then she was only afraid of her husbands that they would detect her. Actually, she was attracted to him so much, but she wanted to meet him without the knowledge of her husband's. Uh, so it had to be done secretly. So Kichaka was very happy. So she said, "Why don't you come to the dancing hall tonight? We'll meet there." So he was very, very happy. Okay, okay. So then he went, and all day he was just, just dreaming that he's going to meet Draupadi, all intoxicated and all that. And then Draupadi didn't do any services that day. She just went to her room, you know. And then in the evening, uh, right after sunset, first Bhimsen went to the hall. He waited there after the lights are all turned off. And then Draupadi, after 2 hours after sunset, then she also went there. And Kichak came there expecting to see Draupadi and, just saying different things to her, how she was very, he's waiting for her and all that. And then she spoke. Bhimsen was standing, behind a curtain where she was, and then she spoke to him. So he approached, he came closer, and what does he see? He saw Bhimsen, and then, he was shocked. He was intoxicated, quite intoxicated. So when he got a blow from Bhimsen, he was like, you know, and there was a fight between the two, and uh, just with his bare hands, to make the whole story short, he just uh, beat him up and killed him, and he thrust his hands, legs and head into his body, made him into a ball, a lump of flesh. And after killing in this way, he told Draupadi to return quickly. So Bhimsen had come there taking another way, not the regular way. So he again went back the same way, went back to where he was sleeping in the kitchen. And Draupadi also went back. But as she went back, she told the guards that Kichaka is laying dead in the dancing hall. So all the soldiers ran there, and they saw Kichaka, and they were amazed. They couldn't even recognize it was him. And then they were going to perform. These are the followers of Kichaka, the powerful warriors. They decided to perform the funeral for Kichaka, and they were still wondering, what happened, who could have done this. And they saw Draupadi hiding and watching them, cremate and all that. Cremate means getting things ready. So as soon as they spotted Draupadi, Sairendri, they said, yes, we know that Kichaka had gone to meet her, so it must be she's the cause for the death of our, master. So arrest her, and it must be her husbands who killed him. So she deserves to be killed. So they took permission from Virata, and Virata was also afraid of the followers of Kichaka. He didn't want to say anything against them. He said, okay. So they arrested Draupadi, they tied her up on the same funeral pyre as Kichaka. They were going to burn her alive. And then she started crying out loudly, taking the names of the 5 Pandavas, the secret names that they had kept: Jaya, Jayatsena, Jayad, like that. And then when she called those names, Bhimsen could hear, he understood that there is some trouble. And immediately he once again came, this time covering his head. Again from the other path he came, and he just killed all the followers. Yeah, actually, as soon as he came and he roared, the followers of Kichaka understood that this is this must be the Gandharva husband. So they saw how Kichaka is killed. They got afraid for their own lives that we'll also be killed. So they started running here and there. But Bhimsen ran after them, caught them, and killed each one of them. And then he sent Draupadi back, and he also went back to his room. So that's where we ended. Let's see what happened. Hmm. So yeah, so when Draupadi was coming back into the city, so Bhimsen said, "You go back into the city." Draupadi started walking back. By now, everyone got news that Kichaka, and they saw how Kichaka was killed by Draupadi's Gandharva husbands, and then they were all afraid now. My God, you know, uh, we are human beings after all, and she's so beautiful, so attractive. It's only natural for any man to look at her, and if anyone looked at her lustily, then her husbands will come and kill in this way. So she's a danger. You should get rid of her. She cannot stay here anymore. They were all very fearful when she was coming back. Even before she came back, when they heard the news, they all went and appealed to the king. She shouldn't stay here anymore. uh, because first they tried to kill her, and they couldn't even kill her because her Gandharva husbands are there protecting her. So what should we do? Just send her out of this kingdom. So then so then Draupadi was walking back, and everyone, they were all afraid to even look at her. They would just kill her. They would literally flee from the place. So she went back, and then Sudeshna saw her, and then she said, "This is the king's order that you should leave the kingdom." And then she said, "Please allow me to stay only 2 more weeks, because after 2 weeks, their term of 13th years incognito would end." So she said, "Please allow me to stay for 2 more weeks, and after that, my husbands will come and they'll get me." So Sudeshna said, "Yes, okay, you can stay for 2 weeks until your husbands come back. Meanwhile, you don't have to do any service. You don't have to come and do any work now. Just go and stay." So that's what happened. So now we'll go to the next chapter. The Kurus attack Virata. The news of Kichaka's death. Kichaka was not an ordinary person. He was a very powerful person, and nobody could kill him. So the news of Kichaka's death spread from country to country. Everyone was amazed to hear of his mysterious killing, right? Nobody saw how he was killed and who killed. Nobody saw. And he was such a powerful warrior. Everyone was amazed to hear of his mysterious killing and the subsequent death of his 100 followers. They were also very powerful. In Hastinapur, the spies dispatched by Duryodhan came to the court and reported everything they had seen and heard. After informing the Kurus that they had found no trace of the Pandavas, they then told them about Kichaka's death. The Kurus were joyful to hear this news. Kichaka had been a thorn in their side, often attacking surrounding countries and defeating their armies. Many times the Kurus had been approached by tributary kings seeking protection from Kichaka. Hmm. So Kichaka was like something like Kamsa, right? So other kings would come to the Kurus seeking protection from Kichaka. So now he and his generals were dead, apparently killed by invisible Gandharvas. Duryodhan pondered the news. Less than 2 weeks remained of the Pandavas' exile. Although he had sent out thousands of spies, none had managed to find them. The Pandavas had hidden themselves well, if they were even alive. The prince summoned his courtiers and said, "You should arrange for one final search for the Pandavas. Have the best of our men scour every city and every city and town. If those heroes still live, we face great danger. We are expecting them to emerge from exile surrounded by their forces," right? When they come out of their 13-year exile, they will come. It's quite likely that they will come with an army to attack us. Let us discover them before this happens and send them back to the forest. Dushasana agreed. We should certainly make a great effort to locate the Pandavas, but I doubt we will find them. We have already searched every city and town. Either they have perished or they have crossed the ocean. I think they are gone forever. I do not think we need fear them. When Dushasan sat down, Drona stood up and said, persons like the Pandavas never meet destruction. They are heroic, resourceful, intelligent, self controlled, pious, grateful, and attached to observing vows. Yudhishthir is both virtuous and without enemies. He is their leader. Thus, they are patiently waiting the day when they can return and overcome their misfortunes. This is my opinion. O Duryodhan, you will see the Pandavas at the end of their exile and not before. Do not waste your energy searching for them. Rather, you should prepare a welcome for them. Give them back their kingdom. Bhishma applauded Drona's speech. The Kuru grandfather longed again to see Pandu's sons, longed to again see Pandu's sons. Their exile had passed slowly for him. His guilt at not having prevented Duryodhan from banishing them burned him day and night. The pain of remembering how Draupadi had been violated was especially acute. Bhishma felt helpless. Dhritarashtra did not heed his advice, and the evil-minded Duryodhan was left to do as he pleased. Now the Pandavas would finally be returning. Surely they had suffered enough. Perhaps the king would now be convinced to return to them their kingdom. Like the full moon rising in the east, Bhishma, clad in white silks, rose from his seat to address the assembly. I fully agree with Drona. The virtuous Pandavas, guided by the Brahmins and walking always on a righteous path, will not perish. They who have as a friend the infallible and all powerful Krishna cannot be overcome by misfortune. The pure souled Yudhishthir can consume his enemies with his glance alone. We should consider carefully how to deal with them now that their exile is ending. It is certainly a mean policy to search for them. I have another view. Listen carefully, and I will speak for our good. A counselor should always speak the beneficial truth and never anything evil. Bhishma looked around the Kuru assembly hall. At its head sat Dhritarashtra, flanked by Vidur, Drona, Kripa, Bahlika, and himself. Duryodhan and his brothers sat to the king's right, along with Karna and Shakuni. Other kings sat in the assembly, and all gazed intently at him as he spoke. Although it was well known that he loved the Pandavas dearly, the assembled kings knew he would never be partial. His first thoughts were for the welfare of the entire Kuru race. We are talking about Bhishma Dev. His first thoughts were for the welfare of the entire Kuru race, and he dealt equally with everyone, desiring nothing but their good fortune. Placing his hand on his golden hilted sword, Bhishma continued, as far as locating the Pandavas is concerned, I will tell you where to find them. Look for that place where there are no calamities or disasters. Where the pious Yudhishthir dwells, there will be an atmosphere of peace and security. The people will be inclined toward charity and will be liberal, humble, and modest. There, the people will be cheerfully performing their respective duties, attached to piety, truthfulness, and purity. You will hear the Vedic hymns being chanted and see sacrifices being performed. Clouds will shower abundant rains, and the earth will be bearing crops. There will be no signs of wealth everywhere. I'm sorry, there will be signs of wealth everywhere, and no one will be miserable. Indeed, that place where Yudhishthir lives will resemble the heavens. Knowing all this, O Kurus, consider what should be done. In my view, we should give up our petty attempts to find them just to send them again to the forest. Let us welcome them back and restore to them their father's kingdom. Bhishmadev shouldn't have said this. It's like giving them a hint where to find the Pandavas. Bhishma sat down, applauded by Drona, Vidur, and Kripa, who himself rose from his seat and said, again, Bhishma sat down, applauded by Drona, Vidur, and Kripa, who himself rose from his seat and said, so who is this? Vidur or Kripa? What the aged Bhishma has said is undoubtedly correct and meant only for our good. His words are reasonable, truthful, and consistent with scripture. Returning the Pandavas' kingdom is surely the wisest course of action. Looking across at Duryodhana and his brothers, Kripa said, okay, so that was Vidur who said, okay. Kripa said, or maybe this is Kripa only who said, and he's continuing. Looking across at Duryodhana and his brothers, Kripa said, but if we are not to follow this course, right, if we don't return the kingdom, then we had best prepare for war. When those powerful heroes return, they will be burning with energy and ascetic power. Therefore, consider now how to expand your own forces. Seek out your allies and make treaties with them. Build a vast, unassailable army. If you deny the Pandavas their right, then we face the gravest possible danger. Duryodhan was pensive. Kripa was right. If he did not return the Pandavas' kingdom, there would no doubt be a fight. But he had no intention of returning their kingdom. The fight was inevitable, unless they could be discovered first and sent back into exile. The Kaurava prince thought carefully. The report about Kichaka had intrigued him. Apparently, he had been slain by the 5 Gandharva husbands of a single woman. The coincidence with Draupadi and the Pandavas was almost incredible, especially because there were only a handful of men who could have killed Kichaka in hand-to-hand combat. Who were the only people who could have killed Kichaka in a hand-to-hand combat? That means someone who has the strength of Kichaka can fight. So it's either Balaram or Shalya, Karna or Bhima. Only these 4 people could have killed Kichaka in a hand-to-hand combat. Balaram, Shalya, Karna or Bhima. It could not have been the first 3, because what reason would any of them have had for going to Virata and killing Kichaka in secret? Right? Why would Balaram, Shalya or Karna kill Kichaka in secret? He had been beaten to a pulp in the dead of night. That sounded suspiciously like Bhima, and he would have had to do it in secret. It added up. Kichaka had violated a woman with 5 husbands and had been slain in a manner that bore Bhima's unmistakable stamp. Right? All the Rakshasas that he killed, Hidimba and Bakasur, Kirmira, right? So that was his trait, his stamp, the way he killed. As Duryodhan pondered, Susharma, king of the Trigartas, took advantage of the silence and said, O Kurus, if you desire to expand your forces, you can begin by bringing Virata under your subjection. Now he is without Kichaka and his followers should be little trouble. Let us go and take his wealth. Subjugating him, you shall increase both your treasury and your army by requisitioning his forces. I will bring my own army to assist you. Too many times have the Trigartas been overpowered by Kichaka. Now we shall avenge ourselves on the Matsyas. Duryodhan felt that the gods, or perhaps the Danavas, had answered him. If he went to Virata, they might find the Pandavas. If they were not there, then there was no loss. He would still gain something by winning over that kingdom. The prince stood up and issued instructions. Susharma has made an excellent suggestion. We should go to the Matsya kingdom immediately. Prepare our army to leave at once. As he has suggested, Susharma will accompany us with his own forces. Duryodhan ordered that they depart the next day. He told Susharma to go ahead with his army and begin by taking away Virata's cattle. Duryodhan would follow with his forces and attack the city. So they were attacking from different directions. Susharma would go and attack the cattle first, right, to take all the cows. And after that, Duryodhan would come and attack from the front, attack on the city. As the other Kuru elders sat in silence, Duryodhan gave his approval and preparations were begun. After Kichaka's death, Virata's citizens were afraid. Although Kichaka had been cruel, he had also been powerful enough to protect them. Now they had no protector. How long would it be before some aggressive monarch tried to conquer them? The king, desperate to replace his commander, considered Kanka, Vallabha, Tantripala, and Granthika. It seemed to him that any of them could lead his army and protect the Matsyas. It was not long before Virata was presented with an opportunity to test his ideas. One morning, as he sat in court, a cowherd ran in and exclaimed, "The Trigartas are attacking us and stealing your cows, O king. Come quickly to rescue them." The king immediately issued orders for his army to assemble. He called for his armor and weapons and prepared to lead his army. His 4 sons surrounded him, also ready for battle. In a short time, hundreds of other powerful warrior chiefs assembled in the court. Outside the assembly hall, the vast Matsya army lined the streets, ready to march. Chariots, elephants, horses, and infantry created a clamor that resembled the ocean's roar. Virata's younger brother Satanik stood by the king's side. The king said, "I have no doubt that Kanka, Vallabha, Tantripala, and Granthika will fight. Give them armor and chariots adorned with flags. I do not think such men, endowed as they are with bodies like mountains and arms like elephants' trunks, will not join the battle." Virata strode anxiously out of his hall to organize his army, while Satanik had chariots fetched for the Pandavas. Having the 4 of them brought before him, Satanik presented them with armor and weapons and ordered them to fight. Enlivened by the thought of a battle, the Pandavas selected suitable armor and put it on. They mounted chariots and rode out of the city behind the king. It had been a while, right? They didn't get an opportunity to fight for so many years. Maybe some, they killed, not in a battle, certainly not in the battlefield. They didn't get an opportunity to fight almost 13 years now. So they were quite excited because they're Kshatriyas. The Matsya monarch charged into battle on a massive chariot surrounded by his sons and the Pandavas. Pay attention. He took all his army and all his warriors. He took everyone to go and rescue the cows from the Trigartas. In his burnished armor adorned with 100 suns and 100 eyes, armor, right? Armor was decorated with 100 suns and 100 eyes. The king shone like the sun encircled by the major planets. Behind them came 1,000 infuriated elephants, 8,000 chariot fighters, and 60,000 horsemen followed them, holding their weapons aloft and sending out terrible war cries. The entire army seemed like a mass of clouds charged with lightning moving across the earth. The Trigartas were still rounding up Virata's huge herd, so they were still there, gathering all the cows. As the Matsya army rushed upon them, quickly abandoning the cows where they would not be harmed, the Trigarta warriors met the Matsyas' charge. A fierce battle ensued on the grazing grounds. As the enraged warriors slew one another, the battle resembled the one that had once taken place between the gods and the demons. A thick dust cloud rose up from the field, obscuring everything and screening the afternoon sun. Thick showers of arrows whistled through the air, and warriors fell by the thousands. The screaming fighters hacked at one another with their swords and axes. As the blood of slain fighters flowed into the dust on the field, the cloud subsided. Heads adorned with helmets and earrings were rolling on the earth. Well-muscled arms, their gloved hands still clutching weapons, lay on the ground like serpents. Shattered chariots and pieces of armor were strewn everywhere. Vultures descended and tore at the bodies of the dead fighters. Jackals surrounded the battlefield. Susharma, he's the Trigarta, Susharma king. Susharma, mounted on a gold chariot, came before Virata and bellowed out a challenge. He immediately released 100 powerful arrows that struck Virata's armor and fell to the ground. Roaring like maddened bulls, the 2 kings circled one another with their weapons upraised. They discharged arrows like clouds pouring torrents of rain. Seeing him engaging with the Matsya king, Susharma's 2 brothers came to his assistance. With well-armed arrows, they killed Virata's 4 horses and his charioteer. They then slew the warriors protecting his sides and rear. Susharma leaped from his chariot with his sword held high and rushed toward Virata. With his two brothers, he seized Virata and took him captive. Yudhishthir saw Virata being led away on Susharma's chariot. He quickly went over to Bhima and called out, "The Matsya king has been captured and his army routed. We have lived peacefully in his kingdom this last year and are indebted to the king. Bhima, free Virata and thus repay our debt. We shall then put the Trigartas to flight." Bhima's eyes glinted at the prospect of the fight. He had been awaiting Yudhishthir's command before engaging in the battle. "So be it," he replied. "Behold my prowess. I shall take hold of that huge tree over there like a mace and disperse the entire Trigarta army." Bhima moved toward a huge sal tree nearby, but Yudhishthir checked him. "O child, do not be rash. If you uproot this tree and perform superhuman deeds, people will be amazed and say, 'Surely this is Bhima.' Take some other weapon so that people will not recognize you. Go on your chariot, and the twins will protect your wheels. Release the king." Bhima urged on his charioteer and raced towards Susharma, who was heading away with the captive king. Nakul and Sahadev rode on either side and carved through the Trigarta forces. Approaching Susharma, Bhima yelled, "Wait, turn and fight. Behold now a mighty feat of arms as I throw you down with all your followers." Bhima let go a steady stream of arrows, and Susharma turned to face him. When the Trigarta king saw the powerful Bhima and the twins before him, it seemed to him that Yamaraj, flanked by death and time, had come to do battle. Along with his sons and generals, he tried to withstand the Pandavas' attack, but hundreds were being killed. Chariots were smashed and elephants slain. Horses with their riders fell like trees blown over in a storm. The Pandavas' forceful arrows swept in clouds through Susharma's ranks and created havoc. Bhima leaped from his chariot and rushed about, whirling his mace, mowing the infantry down like a field of corn. Witnessing the devastation, Susharma was astonished. It seemed that they would be annihilated by these three warriors. He pulled his bow back to his ear and sent long steel shafts at the roaring Pandavas. Bhima struck the straight flying arrows with his mace, and the twins struck at them with their swords. Encouraged by the Pandavas' prowess, the remainder of Virata's army rallied and charged back into the fight. Yudhishthira rode into their midst, working a great bow. With sharpened arrows, the eldest Pandava quickly dispatched 1,000 Trigarta warriors to death's abode. Bhima, back on his chariot and fighting alongside his brother, killed 7,000. Who killed? Bhima. Bhima, back on his chariot and fighting alongside his brother, Yudhishthira Maharaj, killed 7,000. Nakul and Sahadev, focusing their efforts on protecting their elder brothers, slew a further 1,000 brave Trigarta fighters. Susharma began to retreat, and Bhima went after him swiftly. He killed Susharma's 4 horses and brought him to a halt. Seeing his opportunity, Virata grabbed a mace and leaped from the chariot. The old Matsya king began fighting Susharma's troops, wielding his mace and dancing about like a young man. Susharma jumped from his chariot and raced away. Bhima called out to him, "Stop! It is not becoming of heroes to fly away. With such prowess, why did you think of stealing Virata's cows? Why are you now abandoning your followers?" Susharma, provoked, again turned to face Bhima. "Stand and fight," he shouted, brandishing his iron club. Bhima leaped down and rushed toward the bellowing Susharma as a lion attacks a deer. Not caring for Susharma's blows, Bhima seized him by the hair and dashed him to the ground. Pulling him back up, he struck him several fierce blows. Susharma fell gasping to the ground. Bhima placed his knee on his breast and dealt him powerful blows to the head. Susharma lost consciousness, and Bhima dragged him to his chariot. He took the insensible Trigarta king to Virata and said, "Behold this sinful man whom I have captured. Surely he does not deserve to live." The king replied, "Release the wretch." Bhima dragged Susharma to his feet, and as he returned to consciousness, snarled at him, "Although I should slay you for stealing the cows, I will release you. According to Kshatriya custom, you are now Virata's slave. You must declare this wherever you go. Only if you agree to this condition will you be allowed to live. Go now and do not again perform such rash acts. So this is Bhima speaking, right? Yeah. Susharma bent his head low and climbed down from the chariot. He bowed to Virata and left, taking with him the remnants of his army. So it was not Yudhishthir who released him? Okay, okay. The Matsyas cheered. They surrounded the Pandavas, still unaware of their identities, and praised them. Virata said, "Today I have been saved by you four heroes. All this kingdom's wealth is as much yours as it is mine. I will bestow upon you richly adorned women and heaps of gems. Tell me what you wish to have, and it is yours. Indeed, become the rulers of my kingdom. What more can I say?" Yudhishthir said humbly, "O king, we are pleased with your words, but it is sufficient for us that you are freed from danger." "Come," Virata said, "I will install you as king of the Matsyas. How can I rule in your majestic presence? It is due to you alone that I am even able to see my kingdom and my relatives today." Yudhishthir held up his hands in deference. "We are not able to rule Matsya. Pray forgive us. O king, you should continue to rule this prosperous kingdom in peace and happiness. Send emissaries into the capital to announce your victory. In keeping with the custom of the victorious, we must spend this night on the battlefield." Virata turned to his ministers and ordered them to carry news of their victory to the city. "Let damsels and courtesans, decked with ornaments and carrying musical instruments, come out of the city to entertain the troops," the king said delightedly. The ministers left at once, and the warriors prepared to spend the night on the field. Tomorrow's chapter is Arjun encounters the Kurus, more like Brihannala goes onto the battlefield. So we'll stop there today. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.